of the first things is I have a constant sense of, or I think it's in my DNA, and that's a sense of optimism. And as Martin Seligman and the whole philosophy and psychology of the positive psychology stream will say, optimism is really, really important. And it's been the thing that's dragged me out of dark holes. I always believe that if you're busy with something that's bigger than you, a cause that's bigger than you, and an unwavering belief that you can make a difference, that really helps. So optimism is my first. The second thing is that I have a creative spirit. I always see opportunity and possibility, and I was born like that. I don't know whether I learned it, but that was, so I look at things and I see how things can be reinvented and changed and reimagined, and that's really always helped me. So optimism, a creative spirit. And the other thing is something that you can learn, and that is a broad set of interests. I've never stopped learning in my life. I always read, I always join new groups, I always research, and not just in one field, but in a very broad variety of fields. And that has given me the ability to connect dots. And I think one should never ever stop learning. You should never ever stop reading. You should never ever stop or think that I'm working towards retirement and then, life is going to, I don't know what I'm going to do. For me, retirement is not an option because there's just so much to learn and so much to do. So those are the three things that I think for me has really made the difference. I've had more than one of those moments, and I think most people have a number of those moments that helped me or that made me decide this is enough. And mostly those moments are moments that are dark moments in my life. I was married to a person who was a diagnosed psychopath who nearly killed me, and I fled my house with my young son. And I realized that I have to start over, and I'm not going to allow somebody to abuse me any longer. And I came through that, and that was one moment. Another moment was moving to another country. I moved with my second husband to the UAE, where he was a radiation oncologist in a hospital, but unfortunately he was an alcoholic. And he was arrested by the police. And that evening, when I was called to say that he was arrested by the police, that was the moment where I realized I cannot tie my life, the success and happiness of my children, to a man. I have to be the one that does this myself. I have to be the one that has to make decisions for my own life. And I did. And I started a new career. I moved to Malaysia. And I started a job as a general manager of a very large company. And after 5 years of really, really hard work and corporate meetings, the one day came when my boss said this to me in a meeting. I wanted to say something, and I was constantly told no. And I realized that as a woman, that in the corporate world, we often are faced with these kinds of gender biases and the way that people think about women as being too passionate, too compassionate, and I decided enough. I started my own company in 2016, and this is 2020, and we've just grown from success to success. When I was 18, I was already 2 years in university because I went to school as a very young child and skipped grades. So I was intellectually ready, but not emotionally ready. And I made decisions based on a lack of information, a lack of a clear goal for my life. So what I would say to 18-year-olds is, number one, don't measure yourself against others. Don't measure your success, your self-worth against the people around you. And I think so many young people measure the number of likes they get on Facebook, or how popular they are, or they look at other people's lives and they compare themselves and feel that they are less worthy. So I think that is a really important thing, is that you've got to find your own passion. You've got to find the things that mean things to you, and that's where you measure yourself. You measure yourself against your own standards. So that's the first thing. The second thing is tied to that, and that is finding a life of meaning. So I think everybody should be able to say, well, what is the footprint that you want to leave in the world? And the sooner you discover this as a person, the more chance you have to build on that footprint. So make sure that you find out what's your passion, not other people's passion, not your peer group's passion, but what is the thing that you really, really care about. And usually when it is a life of service for others, if it is improving the world around you, whether it's the environment, whether it's the life of others, whether it is through coming up with inventions and new solutions to problems we find in the world. But if you have that bit of meaningful or a meaningful goal that you're striving towards, it really helps you to deal with all these things, these little problems, and get over that. And my last piece of advice is the 5-5-5 principle, or you can make it the 10-10 principle, 5-5-5 principle, and that is this thing that you are so emotionally hijacked about and worried about in this moment, is it going to matter 5 days from now, 5 months from now, and 5 years from now? And most of the time, if you can answer that question, you'll find that, no, this thing that intensely upsets me, in 5 months from now, it's not going to matter. So I think that's the important thing, that we ensure that we don't get swept away by moments and make irrational decisions, but rather tie that to our vision, to what we want to achieve in our lives, and always remember the 5-5-5 principle. Yes, I definitely am. This is my empowered voice